Hey everyone, welcome. So today I want to do a post on PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids. I want to follow up from my last Substack, The Devil in the Diet, hint, it's not sugar. And I wanted to follow up with a video because there's been a lot of questions and concerns that you all have reached out to me about regarding that post. It's probably been the most, it's created a bit of an uprising in many of you who've read it, which is a really good thing. And I know a lot of you have voiced some concerns. Oh my God, what do I do? And so I want to spend a little time here just talking more about this situation with PUFAs and in our diet. Even if you don't eat seed oils, like you don't cook with them, you're not, you don't buy them. Unfortunately, the food system has found very convenient ways to still get those into our diet. And so I want to take a little time here to talk about that more deeply, kind of piggyback on the post that I recently wrote there, but then also just kind of give you some helpful tools with regard to how to approach this. Um, Really, my approach is knowledge is power. And while this can be, you may feel a little self-defeated after this, like that's usually initially what happens when we find out a big thing. You're like, oh my God, they did, but now it's like, okay, now what can I do? And what can I do to support my health and so forth in a deeper way. So really. Of course, if you get frustrated in the beginning, of course, um, you express that, but also know that there's a lot we can do here to rectify this situation. And I always feel like when something is really when we get in a place with anything, when it's really at the lowest point, it's like the biggest chance for transformation, right? So when we get to the lowest of the low, it's like our biggest growth edge. It's our biggest chance and opportunity for growth, maturation, shedding the old to let something new and better into our lives. And so I know this is how I tend to approach things. I find it very helpful because then we're in charge of our lives and it's not up to somebody else to decide how our lives are the outcome of our lives, right? So um first of all, I just really want to preface here. I know I said this, but even if you don't eat seed oils, you don't buy canola, you don't buy grapeseed, you don't buy products with these things in it, you don't buy um, soy oil, any oil that you put it on your counter and it stays liquid at room temperature or body temperature and it remains liquid, that is a red flag to you that that oil contains way too many polyunsaturated fatty acids, and it's not going to be a health supportive oil for you, for your pets, for your farm animals, for your children, whoever is living in your house or on your property. It just needs to be disposed of. And we have to keep in mind that like flax oil has gotten a lot of press over, man, a lot of years, maybe even the last 20 years of the benefits of flax oil and flax seeds, and it's rich in omega 3s. That's a total crapshoot. It's one of the biggest sources of PUFAs, polyunsaturated fatty acids, namely linoleic acid. This is the fatty acid that's most prevalent in PUFAs. It's highly destructive to our cells, to our hormones, to our hormone production, to our metabolism, to our body, to our cells' ability to produce ATP. It destroys the thyroid and thyroid signaling. It causes detox issues. And this isn't just flaxseed and flaxseed oil, but it's anything with a large amount of linoleic acid in it, which that's really all the PUFAs have that main fatty acid in it. So, now, I'm where I'm going with this is back before these foods like soy and flaxseed were even introduced into the food system, they were used industrially. They were used in paint, and as a paint thinner. And then we happened to discover that, hey, petroleum-based paints are more cost effective and they're better. And so, oh my God, now we have all this flax, we have all this soy. What do we do with it? Well, just put it in the food. I mean, it's not, whatever. It's like a fatty acid. But they put it in paints because it oxidizes so rapidly, so quickly. And so you think about when that stuff enters your body, oxidization means more free radicals, more toxins, diminishing your body's ability to detox, diminishing your cells' ability to produce ATP energy. And and so originally, I think it's really helpful to keep in mind that these fatty acids were never, didn't originally, the original intention was not how do we make this a food source? It was for paints and other industrial things and making linen and so forth. And so then, of course, they always tend to find a way to recycle their excesses at our cost, at our detriment. And so we don't need to do that. So I just want to dissolve the myth right now that flax and flaxseed is a healthy thing. These things should not be in your diet, and they should not be in the animals that you're eating in their diet as well. And I'm going to talk about that very soon. So that's first and foremost. Another PUFA is corn. Okay, now corn does contain a lot of starch as well. But what happens when, and our ancestors did use cracked corn in some of the diets of their animals. This is less of an issue when we actually use the ancient grain, the cracked corn in the animal's diet. Now, we don't want it to be like a primary foundation of the animal's diet. Personally, we don't give our dairy cows, and we don't give we'll have beef cows. None of our animals will ever get corn. We don't give our chickens corn. We don't, because we find there's more optimal nutrition for the birds and the cows. But I just want to really be state that originally and back in the day, yes, corn was also a part of our the feed inputs for our livestock, for our poultry and so forth. Um, Today, it's a bigger issue because it's a huge part of the diet, but also because we're not just giving our animals corn, we're feeding them ethanol corn byproducts. And this mainly most farmers today, and there's been this whole huge business of ethanol as fuel, right? Again, we're like, oh shit, we have too much corn. What do we do with it? Let's turn it into a fuel source. Okay, but now we have all this excess. They extract what they need from the corn to produce ethanol, and then there's this leftover. So you have like, it's what they did to us with grains. We take the bran out of the rice and make it white. We take the bran out of the wheat and make it less nutrient dense. We take the nutrients out of the corn and use it as fuel, but then we feed the byproducts to our animals. That's one issue with corn today. Another issue with corn is they feed a lot of grain byproducts. So the animals aren't getting the whole food form of corn. And a lot of corn today is GMO. So, if your animals or the animals that you're eating are fed corn, we need to make sure that it's in minimal amounts and that it's from truly organic sources. So there's a lot of issues there as well. But I just kind of wanted to paint a picture here of what PUFAs are, how many of them used to be what their original use was intended for. It wasn't as a food source. And now, over the years, we've really come to understand that, hey, PUFAs, we want them out of the diet. Don't cook with liquid oils. Don't, and we know there's a whole campaign now for getting vegetable oils out of restaurants, replacing it with more stable fats like saturated fats like beef tallow. And it takes a lot of time to make big changes like that at the federal level, but we can do them now in our own homes and so forth. But we've known for years, hey, not a good idea to cook with these oils, not a good idea to eat these oils. And let me just list them here again, just the primary ones. So we have corn, canola, soy, sunflower, safflower, cottonseed oil. We also have things like flaxseed oil. Sesame oil is pretty high in PUFAs as well. Um, and so these are the oils we really want to steer clear from. I didn't cover all of those on the list because they come up with new ones every day. What you really have to, the foolproof test that I mentioned in the Substack, The Devil in Your Diet, it's not sugar, hint, it's not sugar. Talked about this test where you put the bottle or jar of oil on your counter at room temperature, at body temperature. If that thing remains liquid, then um, it's a PUFA. And especially if you cool oils, like let's say you have a pantry that's cooler, or you store your oils in the fridge, while PUFAs, even when they're cold, will still remain liquid as well. Okay, so and you can try this with your olive oil. Olive oil is about 8 to 12% PUFA, which is relatively low. Butter's 3%, coconut oil's 3%. Lard, it depends on what your pig was raised, which I'll talk about that in a minute. But there's a unique property to olive oil that olive oil, when it's really made in a pure state and organically and in small batches, not the crap you find in the grocery store, okay, has a very high level of antioxidants. And those antioxidants can offset even the low level of PUFAs in olive oil. And so it's like Tetris, they kind of negate any of the oxidized PUFAs. And all PUFAs are oxidized, especially as soon as you eat them, but as soon as they're processed. And olive oil has the unique capacity to negate the effects of the PUFAs found in it. So I wanted to mention that because the most common question I get asked is, what about olive oil? And I've wrote about this in the past on the Eat Heal Farm Substack of the whole olive oil industry. I think many of you know about it. It's been circulating for a while, of how the agro mafia, which is literally a thing in Italy, they will go around and they'll taint olive oil and they'll sell it as Italian olive oil. Who doesn't want to eat Italian olive oil? Everyone does, and they'll sell it for cheap. But the thing is that they dilute it with canola oil. There's hardly to no olive oil actually in there. They flavor it to resemble olive oil. And so if your olive oil stays pretty liquid, even when cooled, it's not olive oil. And also you really want to make sure to buy your olive oil from very small farmers or companies or farmers directly. The best way to go when you're buying any food today is to buy direct from farmers as much as you can. And I know it's not as convenient as going to the grocery store. Of course, there are certain things that are helpful and we can get at the grocery store, but one rule of thumb that I talk about in my Wild Fed course, which is launching this March, is teaching you how to buy directly and why from farmers and from small companies, why that's important. Um, okay, so let's talk about if you're not eating PUFAs, you don't cook with those oils, you don't buy those oils, how are these affecting you or how could these be affecting you? So um well, there's a few things here. One is that it's used as a feed byproduct to our livestock. Um so it's added to feed. Okay. It's added to chicken feed. Like chicken feed is, a standard chicken feed is going to contain corn and soy and grain byproducts and corn byproducts. It's going to contain vegetable oils. It's going to likely contain flaxseed. And you go into your store and it's like eggs from chickens fed flax. That is not a health, like, yes, that's a marketing signal for you to be like, nope, I'm not buying that. And why this is so important is because when animals, um, chickens, pigs, those are some of the most affected animals because they're monogastric. They have one stomach. And so ruminants have four stomachs, they have four chambers, and the four chambered stomachs, animals, the ruminants, they have a built-in capacity. There's so many different bacterial strains within the rumen that they can actually break down PUFAs and eliminate them. So they become less of an issue in ruminants. Now they're doing some ridiculous things about rumen bypass methods to make dairy and animals less saturated because this is a whole heart health agenda that they're experimenting with right now. So that's not in our market yet. Hopefully, it will fail and never will be. But for the current present moment, ruminants are more equipped to detox through the bacteria in their rumens the effects of the inflammatory effects of PUFAs. So, but monogastric animals, chickens, pigs, humans, right? They are going to affect us much more. They're going to have a much more profound effect on our cells, our adipose tissue, our metabolic health, our thyroid function, etc. So, so when we feed animals a PUFA-rich diet, which it's really important to understand that neither pigs nor chickens can survive on grass alone, on pasture alone. We all look for the label pasture raised. We've been taught to look for that label. It's a good label to look for. But when it comes to chickens and when it comes to pigs, we have to understand that there's no such thing as a 100% grass-fed pasture raised chicken or hog. It's impossible. Those animals would not live a long, vibrant, healthy life if they were just left to grass alone. It's if we were just left to eat grass alone, we would be very deficient. Our hormones would fail. It would lead to an early death. So these monogastric animals cannot survive on grass alone. Now you go into your grocery store and it says pasture raised pork, pasture raised eggs, pasture raised whole chickens, pasture raised chicken thighs. They may have that likely says, well, they've had access to grass, but what we have to also know, this knowledge we have to bring forward is they were also fed grains. Now, that's not a bad thing, but it is if those grains contained a high amount of PUFAs, which most grains do. And it doesn't matter if the animal was raised organically, regeneratively, conventionally in a feedlot. You can have organic soy, organic corn, organic canola oil. It doesn't matter if it's organic or not. It's still a PUFA. It's still rancid. It still oxidizes in your body, creating more free radicals and breaking down your hormonal, metabolic, and digestive systems. Does not matter if it's organic or not. So we have to take a further step here when we're making our food choices. we have to ask the farmer or the company we're purchasing our, say, yogurt from and say, hey, is this, what do you feed your animals? Most companies, if it's a commercial company found in a grocery store, you can go to their website and you can go to, they'll have usually a page on diet, and you can read what they feed their animals. So if not, send them an email. But why this is important, because when we eat these animals, you want to roast a chicken, you want to, a lot of people in the carnivore world, they think they're crushing it by eating all this meat, but a lot of these animals are fed a high PUFA diet, and then they're becoming very phosphate heavy and calcium deficient, and we're going to see a lot of calcium deficiency issues in our carnivore crowd very, very soon. I've already seen them. And anyway, but what we have to bring this knowledge forward with our dietary choices now, in that in seeking out animal products that have been on a PUFA free diet or a low PUFA diet, because it's impossible to have no polyunsaturated fatty acids, right? But we want to keep them minimal. Right now, the American diet is incredibly high in PUFAs. And what happens is over time is when we eat these, it changes our DNA, it changes our metabolism, it changes the way our cells function. And then we pass those malfunctions on to the next generation. Okay. And so it's really important to understand the effects of these foods, because even though you're not eating the oil, like you're not cooking with the oil, you're likely getting it in your diet through the chicken you're eating, the pork you're eating, the eggs you're eating, and then to a lesser degree, the if you eat conventional beef finished on corn, while these are ruminants, if you give the ruminant more and more and more corn, it will compromise its digestive health, making it more acidic, and then therefore the animal is less apt to be able to remove those PUFAs from the bacteria in their rumen, because the rumen bacteria gets significantly compromised the more PUFAs that they consume over time. So it's really important to keep that in mind. So what happens is we eat these animal foods, who've been raised on these, the PUFAs have been in their feed or make up the bulk of their feed. And so then we eat them and they're like, I'm low carb, I'm low sugar, but I can't lose weight. My thyroid's still malfunctioning. I'm still having issues with insulin. My thyroid's still shot. I'm still infertile. And this is a piece of the dietary puzzle or pie, whatever you want to call it, that has yet to really, we've have yet to hone in on this aspect of what we feed our animals, we also are feeding ourselves. Okay. And so when an animal, let's take a pig, for example, when a pig when is fed a diet high in PUFAs, which it has been for years and years now, what happens is the lard, the fat, the leaf lard in that animal becomes softer. It becomes less saturated. So now we're eating animals that have a more compromised fatty acid profile. And with the more we take saturated fats out of the diet and replace them with PUFAs, what's going to have a profound effect, and not in a good way, on our health. We also have to look at chicken eggs. You're like, well, how much PUFAs can actually be in a chicken egg? And this is really interesting. And I talk about this finding in the Substack, the Devil in Your Diet Substack post, which is there have been this has been studied, where the most trusted commercial pasture raised egg brand in the States, Vital Farms, Those eggs were tested, and these you go into the store. Oh, there's Vital Farms eggs. They have regenerative pasture raised. They have pasture raised. They have, they're known for their pasture raised eggs. When these eggs were actually tested, and you test the yolk primarily because that's where all the fatty acids are, that's where a lot of the PUFAs accumulate. And so just two of those eggs, the yolk were equivalent to eating 1 tablespoon of canola oil. So it's like we think we've been led by marketing and so forth to think we're eating a really good product and we're making a healthy choice. And those eggs are not cheap, okay? But they have connived us into thinking, hey, this is a pasture raised egg. Less than 2% of the population are farmers today. So if you're not a farmer, you likely have no idea. I didn't before I became a farmer that a chicken can't survive alone on grass, right? It's like, oh, they don't tell us this. Oh, there has to be some grain inputs. That information is withheld from us, and we have to understand that that's just not the case. So even when we choose the healthiest, quote unquote, healthiest egg on the market, we're still eating. That's a significant amount of PUFAs that we're getting in our diet. A big part of, or I should say, in the first section of the wild fed course that I'm teaching, part of that is to detox your cells, how to detox from PUFAs. Because you can detox from these things, we need to make our cells and our tissues more saturated and get the PUFAs out in order to really get to one of the root causes of our metabolic, thyroid, weight, gut health issues. And so, right in the first part of the course, this is probably the most important part of the course is understanding why. I think this video will likely emphasize that, but not only why it's important to detox PUFAs from our body, but how to do so. Because a lot of these fatty acids, the PUFAs, they're stored in our cell. They're stored in every tissue of our body. But especially for somebody with a metabolic health issue, say the inability to lose weight, obesity, cancer, these fatty acids are stored in the adipose tissue. And so we have to go about the detoxing these things in a not only like a gentle and safe way, we have to go about it slowly because we don't want to overwhelm the system. Because if there's too many PUFAs in your body, you already have a compromised ability to detox. And everybody's detoxing from mold. And why do I have a histamine reaction to this, to eggs? And I can't eat this because of the histamine. And I can't eat that because of the nightshades and the oxalates. It's like the real issue here that's driving this is inflammation and its toxicity. And a main source is coming from PUFAs. Now, if you cook with vegetable oils, that's something you could do immediately. Just stop, replace it with healthy saturated fats, and remove those from your diet. But then also, it's really important to understand, get to know where your food's not only where your food's coming from, because we've taken that step, a lot of us. Oh, my food comes from this farm. Amazing. Now, what do they feed those animals is the next step. Oh, soy is in that. Oh, I'm not going to buy from that farmer anymore. And make sure you tell that farmer, hey, this is causing real health issues because farmers actually, most of them don't know that this is playing such a detrimental role to the well-being of their animals, the nutritional value of their animals, but also to human health. And they're not told this. They've been painted a picture where these feeds containing corn and soy and flax and vegetable oils and grain byproducts and so forth provide all the nutrition that the animal needs. And so it's like, well, we could eat at McDonald's and get technically all the nutrition we actually need to like stay upright for a little while. But we're not going to be vital, healthy. Our tissues um, are going to degenerate very quickly, and our health is going to degenerate really quickly. So most farmers are unaware of the effect of PUFAs on their animals, on the saturated fat content of their animals. Most farmers and people are actually taught that, hey, why would you want so much saturated fat? That's the stuff that clogs the arteries. And, I can't even imagine how long this absolute horror show can continue around cholesterol and saturated fats being dangerous and bad for the health and causing heart attacks and so forth. It's like, can we put that baby to the horse is dead, right? It's like, and so, but many people still, especially older farmers, are under this belief system that, well, hey, maybe that is a good idea to use ruminant bypass methods to get my dairy products less saturated and feed my animals corn and soy to make their tissues softer. A bad idea. They don't know it, so it's as a consumer and maybe you're a farmer or whatever, whoever, we can help each other out here and getting this cleaning up our diets. And the next step to take with that is one, becoming aware of what are the animals actually fed that you're eating, and and then how do I detox PUFAs from my cells in a safe and an effective way. And this takes it takes a chicken about 4 to 6 weeks to detox PUFAs from the system. I think it takes pigs about 4 to 6 months. It takes humans about 2 years. So, so it's not, don't, please don't think of, oh, I'll detox PUFAs from my diet and, I'll do a weekend cleanse. It's not going to go down like that. These things have a lasting impact on our cells. They're stored in our fat tissues. Anything stored in the fat tissues can be resistant to letting go. And so we have to do this in really gentle, clean, focused, supportive ways. And that's a huge part of the Wild Fed course that I'm going to teach you about. If you're interested in that course, you can go to my constitutional homeopathy page. You'll see the courses tab, and you can click on that to learn more. I made it super affordable because I really want this information to get out there, because this is how we change the food system and change our health. It's not about one person, it's about all of us doing this together. And then it's like when the consumer wants something, the farmer will be like, oh, well, this many people want that product. Okay, that makes sense, and here's why it makes sense, right? So, I hope this helped you understand PUFAs a little bit more deeply, helped maybe give you some more encouragement and empowerment around how to address this issue. I guess the last thing I'll say with the sun starting to return, because it's now mid February, and so we'll be getting more and more sunlight. I know many of you likely know the Sunlight RX, but also the more PUFAs that you ingest, the less melanin you'll make, the more you'll burn, and the more free radicals will build up in your body. So that's also something noteworthy, because you all know I'm a big proponent of healing with sunlight. And one of the questions I get asked is, why do I continue to burn in sunlight? This could be, this is one factor that not a lot of people are talking about, that actually needs, more light shed upon it. So, I hope that was helpful. If you have questions about this, please let me know. I'll post a link to the course below here for you all, for anyone who's interested. And I'll see you soon.